mic on. Welcome. Regular scheduled meeting of Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission is being held in the Commissioners' Meeting Room in the Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, room 270, Cortez, Colorado. We're going to open with a Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Pierce, Commissioner Saunders,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Also present, Don Haley, County Planning. Please silence or turn off your cell phones during the meeting. Important calls may be taken outside the meeting room. Planning and zoning minutes. You guys looked at those for those that were here?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 13th,
Second.
2022.
It's been moved and seconded. Call the vote.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce,
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
All right. The Montezuma County Planning Commission welcomes you to this meeting. The board is comprised of members who are tasked to make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. We are not the decision makers. We encourage public comment after each permit. Person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced at the discretion of the Planning Commission to allow members of the public, all members of the public, the opportunity to address their thoughts and concerns. When addressing the commission, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Prior to providing your comments to individual applicants are not permitted. Participants may not yield their time to others. I will be voting at this meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Pierce, Commissioner Saunders,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
And we are going to switch around the two applicants tonight, and we're going to do Mr. Lau first, so that he doesn't have to sit through several hours of the one that was going to be first. Anyway, notice is hereby given the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed 5-lot moderate subdivision and rezoning application submitted by MarkLowe Investments LLC on property located at to be determined Road 32, Mancos, Colorado, consisting of 35.23 acres more or less, located south of Road P, east of Road 32, situated in Section 1, Township 36 North, Range 15 West, Mexico Prime Meridian. Is the public hearing, was the public notice published?
Yes, it was.
Was evidence of letters to the adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes.
And the sign was posted?
Yes, it was.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up to the table, please? And you might have to turn the microphone on when you get there. All right, any planning department findings?
Yes, Mr. Lau is proposing to do a 5-lot moderate subdivision on his property there off of Road P. All agencies were notified. Access will be from Road P and also from Road 32. Let's see. Empire Electric states that electric supply is available if needed. No concerns with the project. Propane would be supplied. There is no natural gas. Rural water would be Montezuma Water Company. There's an 8-inch main line on the north side of P. At this time, Montezuma Water does not currently provide water to the above-mentioned property and does have water available for 5 additional services. Water services available has not been secured. I believe 1 water tap was purchased. Mr. Lau is proposing to build his own residence on what would be lot number 3 of this subdivision. There's the subject property. And there is a proposed layout with his residence on lot number 3. Does have a driveway permit application there. There is irrigation water from Summit on the property. Wildfire Adaptive recommends a waiver for this property. Even though it's in a moderate risk zone, there's really not much on there that could burn besides grass and whatever else if irrigation water runs out. Weed Department recommends a waiver for their weed plan. They'll still be responsible to maintain the weeds as always. No geologic study required. Covenants will be the minimum as added to by Mr. Lau.
You'd like to add anything to that, Mark?
I don't believe so, no.
All right.
So the gap between lot 3 and 4 shown here is because there is an irrigation line. It's a buried pipe, but he is reserving that easement just so that nobody has any ideas about building or being in or
Yeah.
on that easement.
And also, there's the supply to lot 5, also is within that corridor. So I just kind of felt like it would be best if lot 5 owned that rather than make easements.
How wide are those 2 easements?
60 foot, I believe, right?
Yeah, 60 foot, it might have to be a touch wider to get both pipes in it. So I haven't had the survey done yet, so.
Any more planning?
Is there 1 pipe or 2 pipes?
Well, the main camp ditch goes through there, and then the individual that services lot 5 and the property to the south is kind of adjacent to it, to the east a little bit.
Okay. And it's buried, right? It's all underground?
Yeah, they're both buried. The one has the risers.
Okay. And there's an easement then across lot 5 for this water pipe? Right.
Yes, there's an easement,
Okay.
that would go through between lots 3 and 4, and also all the way through lot 5. That is camp ditch.
Okay. Could that ever be used for an access to lot 5 between 3 and 4? Is it,
Honestly, I kind of thought like maybe it could be a back door, but the pipes from camp ditch and they come up right there, and I think it would be
Okay.
quite a bit of effort to make that happen. So,
Okay. So the main access is gonna be
the
between
main
1 and
access
2?
is going to be between lots 1 and 2.
Okay. All right.
32.
Is there any plan to break lot 5 up in the future?
No,
Okay.
no, I bought 2 shares of water that I was going to leave with lot 5, so that it'll be about 20 acres, and I just felt like that would be the best way to have that.
Are you putting any covenants or anything like that on the subdivision?
I'm first timer here, so I don't want to make it too complicated on myself, and it sounds like it would be pretty difficult to enforce them and stuff, so I was not planning on doing that.
Anything else down there? right, we'll open up to public comment. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve a proposed 5-lot moderate subdivision and rezoning application submitted by MarkLowe Investments LLC based on the following. The proposed use is in conformity with the code. The proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support uses consistent with the proposed zoning. And I don't have any conditions.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Call the vote, please.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce,
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Motion carried. Vote was unanimous. Good luck to you, Mark.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Pierce, Commissioner Saunders,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
All right. Application 2. Notice is hereby given the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed high-impact special use permit with commercial rezoning application submitted by Silvina Guerreiro on property located at 7134 Road 41, Mancos, Colorado, consisting of 3.71 acres more or less, located south of Highway 160, east of Road 41, situated in Section 4, Township 35 North, Range 13 West, New Mexico, Prime Meridian. This is the public hearing. Was the public notice published?
Yes.
And was evidence of letters of the adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes.
And the sign was posted.
Yes, it was.
Would the applicants like to come up to the table, please? Welcome. New Planning Department findings.
So the applicants are proposing to create a venue for music festivals, weddings, private parties, local community events, including lodging units in the existing structure for short-term rental. The surrounding properties consist of residential, small and large ag uses, along with the Weber Cemetery adjacent to the south. All agencies were notified. Access will be off of County Road 41. Empire Electric states that they supply electric to the proposed lot if needed. There's no concerns about supplying electricity to this property for this project. Rural water is serviced through Mancos Rural Water. They state that when a secondary structure is built for a dwelling, they will require another membership. There might be concern regarding usage and draw on the system, pending the statistical information for rooms and availability in the current unit. The Water Board may see fit to deem the usage as commercial, and will discuss this further with management and possibly the board to get some better answers. Currently, there's one residence unit there with septic permit 5663. There is no irrigation. They have completed a fire plan, and Wildfire Adaptive did a site visit. A waiver can be recommended due to the fact that the egress access is better than anticipated and the vegetation is not as dense around the event space. weed control. Weed department recommends a waiver from a comprehensive plan. No geologic study required, not in a floodplain. Covenants are not required, but there may be conditions or certain stipulations that may want to accompany this. That's it.
That's it. Would you folks like to add anything to that?
Well, in Mancos, you know, it's a very creative community. There's not really a venue for this type of event where, you know, people can come together to make music and share art. We are both artists.
Excuse me just a moment. Would you push the button on your mic there? There you go. Thank you.
There you go. I'm sorry. We are both artists ourselves in the community, and, you know, we had our wedding here recently, and that was what inspired us to move forward with this application. It would mean a lot to us as artists to have a space for the people in Mancos to come together, maybe do drawing sessions and have musical events. It would always be intimate, like 60 people or less. So that is why we are applying. Thank you.
All right. Planning discussion.
Questions?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any intention of serving alcohol at this type of event?
We imagine we would have people bring their own alcohol vendor and have certified bartenders. We're not selling it and we're not serving it ourselves.
So you would not be seeking even an event permit
We
from the county?
We probably would. I haven't really looked into it, to be honest, but all the, you know, food and alcohol would be outside vendors.
Okay.
There are, how many living quarters are there going to be on the property?
Within this barn dominium, we just renovated it to include a bigger space. It's a 750 square foot master bedroom. So that's one, a loft bedroom and a guest bedroom. There's a total of 3 rooms, and we're adding a bathroom as well. So total of 3 bathrooms. We have a bathroom downstairs, so 3 bathrooms, 3 rooms.
Okay. And is how big was the place with the current septic that was in there?
How big was it?
Yeah, I mean, are you adding livable area? And
That
are
matches the
you adjusting the septic system at all?
Well, when we bought it, the builder actually made it sized for like additional rooms. So like
Okay.
they were anticipating us renovating the hayloft to a room. So he included that when he was planning it.
You say you're gonna host roughly 60 people in there, and you add together the amount of vehicles that would be, could be anywhere from 30 to 60. Where do you anticipate parking 30 to 60 vehicles?
We anticipated that, thinking that when it's a wedding, which is most likely what it's going to be used for, most people are going to be driving as couples, so it's probably not going to be 60, but if it were, we have space for parking there.
Okay, but whereabouts on this particular map are you showing the?
It's labeled P, and just down the road a little bit, there is a big field that we will put the parking lot in. We haven't really counted how many spaces could fit there, but yeah, that's the location of it.
You're saying off-site parking?
It's like,
Or-
it's on our property, yeah,
Okay,
but
okay.
it's about like, how many feet, 50, 100? I'm bad at
It's
estimating.
probably 200 feet from the house.
Okay. Okay. Do you anticipate year-round events or
No, just through like the spring.
spring,
through
summer, fall
Yeah.
type?
When it's warm.
Non-winter?
No, yeah, the downstairs is not insulated, there's no way we would have events down there.
And so all the events are gonna be held basically
Open
indoors? You
area
don't have an
on the top
outside
there.
stage planned?
No,
Or
no
is it-
outside stage at all.
Indoors.
It would be seasonal.
So do you have a room big enough for musicians? That
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really small, if it were a wedding venue, it's a really small venue.
Like 60, yeah. Like with ours, we have 58 with vendors. And we had a shuttle that kind of went back from Mancos town to our property, so that eliminated, an influx of traffic on the road.
Okay, so again, all indoors.
Yes. We may extend the patio, like in front of the barn doors, a little bit to have like cocktail hour, but no like stage for music or anything.
Can you explain the 400 square foot A-frame to be added later on with a canvas tent?
Yeah, we initially anticipate if this project went forward, that would be another application we would go through where we add accommodations for us. We would be running the events. So on those nights of the events, we don't anticipate on staying at the main building. So this A-frame, it would be very small. We have an idea of where to put it, but it would be either for us or the cleaner or manager. And then we would look at upgrading the septic at that point as well. Right now, we are not looking into it.
Have you made an effort to communicate with your close neighbors about
We-
this project?
We sent out the packet, and I wrote a note. It was hard to kind of gauge what everyone's schedule is. I know they have families, and it's not like we're directly neighbors. So I'm not really close with them to just like text them and meet up or anything.
We just sent out our number and
Yeah.
told them if they had any questions, they could ask us.
Did you have anybody reach out?
No.
I saw something about the events running till 10 p.m. in some cases. Is that your limit on time frame to shut down events, or what are we looking at for noise levels past 7?
Yeah. 10 o'clock is a hard stop. The cleaners might be in there, but the events itself, people are leaving. Like, we do not allow like overnight stays during the events. We're not doing that. We're either doing lodging specifically or events specifically. So at 10 o'clock, it would be over.
What are your plans for mitigating surrounding noise, light pollution, those types of things?
It's a pretty quaint venue. We had our wedding there, and pretty much everything that we've done to the place is in place at the moment. As far as like lights, we won't be adding any of those. If there was a patio area built, there might be a few.
Yeah,
you know,
facing the
lights
cemetery.
out there. Yeah, and it's on the opposite side. The only neighbor that we ever see within eyesight is, I think, yeah, it's right here. And there's a kind of a valley in between us, and I think we can hear a few things, but I just don't know we don't talk enough to know what they can hear from us so far. And whenever we had our wedding, it seemed like it was pretty quiet. I don't know, I haven't talked to them about it yet, but I just don't know what that is so far, but as far as mitigating it if we have a wedding there, we're obviously going to have like a staff make sure that nobody goes past those hours or what.
And the decibels, like the DJ would be responsible for not going over the decibel. We'll make sure he's in a part of the downstairs where it's the furthest away from that. Because there is like an area where, if you look over, you can see them, you can hear them. But we would make sure all the music and sounds are on the opposite side, towards the cemetery.
One event, just having your own wedding is one thing. Doing it continually is another. Adds a lot of unpredictability,
Yeah.
a lot of things to consider there.
What do you anticipate the decibels of a drum session would be, roughly?
I play the drums.
Yeah.
I've been playing the drums there since we live there. So I'll let our neighbors let us know
Yeah.
what that might be like. But decibel levels, I mean, I'm pretty loud. I played metal.
Right.
I don't know what decibel levels go up to. I don't think we'll be having any metal playing drummers at our wedding events. But I mean, that is something to consider too. I mean, we're not planning on having any type of like stage setup where it's like a rock show or anything like that.
Right.
Like you said, you'd be limited to your weddings and intimate gatherings. We're not gonna reinstate the motorcycle rally or anything like that.
No, it is not a festival like with the music. I think someone mentioned it was like for music festivals. Absolutely not big enough for that. It would be intimate musical concerts. But yeah,
Jam sessions.
yeah.
Don, on the threshold standard evaluation, the less than 15 vehicle round trips per business day exceeding, can you elaborate on that? What does that do for us when we're evaluating something like this?
Well, that's the reason for the high impact permit.
Okay, so it breaks that threshold, therefore it goes into the high impact.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
that's all I wanted clarity on.
Yeah, and the special use permit has to do with concerts and
Gotcha.
and music events and that type of deal. So they go hand in hand, the high impact permit and the special use permit.
But that special use permit is case by case then?
Correct.
It couldn't be for a period of time.
Well, it could be, but if it's granted, because we don't limit the high impact permit to a certain amount
Okay.
of time. It's,
Well, and we had the discussion, my concern with this is not so much the high impact, but it's the changing of the zoning, where we're bringing a commercial enterprise into residential agricultural, where there's no other commercial. So if you start with this one, the next one's gonna be a liquor store, convenience store down the road. I like the idea. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I visited the site today. It seems like it's, amenable. I just don't like the rezoning in a residential commercial area. So there's nothing we can't, I don't want to say massage, but that, we couldn't push it to a special permit.
well, you
Where
can-
that doesn't change the zoning. There's no other avenue
Well,
open.
this is not a residence at all. It's strictly a
ag-
commercial operation. So
This isn't a
you can have residents on a commercial zoned property, but the primary use is commercial.
They're
So if
generating
you
revenue.
absolutely don't have a residence,
Okay.
it pretty much has no other option but to be commercial.
Okay, so them not having, or not living on the property constitutes a special use permit, which is gonna change the zoning. Okay.
And the revenue generation doesn't apply in that, or is that part of consideration on the commercial?
I mean, with the change to commercial, if they are going to add the residences, an A-frame and another residence, then we had discussed a PUD with them. On a larger property, we would do a commercial envelope. But, with what they're looking at doing here, it's obviously with the canal there, that's not usable, accessible for anything else, so it pretty much is gonna take up the whole property. So that's why we would just look to zone the whole thing as commercial.
Gotcha.
Didn't we do something similar with Bell's Beef? Like, it's only commercial as long as that's the intended use? Like, if it changes hands, it loses?
We did have a stipulation that if that business, that operation ceases, then the zoning and the high impact permit cease as well.
is that part of your concern, like the ongoing commercial? Like you like it for this use, but then stays commercial forever?
Well, again, that might work. Again, it's just bringing in commercial zoning into a residential agricultural area. You know, and we brought up the Bell beef, but as Don pointed out, they're living there, so.
As renters though.
Yeah, it doesn't go to commercial. It can stay residential even though they have a business on that property.
And a cemetery next door.
And, well, they're not gonna complain. We're all right.
If I get calls from them, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, then we're, first complaint from them, everything's.
Yeah, I'm tapping out.
Might as well start.
Do you have the ability to enclose the venue? Shut the doors as far as if you're, you know, you're having,
It is enclosed. It's a barn, so it's got big barn doors on it. And you can leave them open or closed, but everything for the wedding venue will be inside the barn.
Yeah, we're about to add like an actual garage door as well behind the barn door, so it would be perfectly like, yeah, enclosed.
So everything, every event will take place in the barn.
Yes, but I don't want to like leave it and say, or I don't want to commit to saying the doors would always be shut, because in the summer, you know, if it's nice out, people are, you know, more likely to go outside, enjoy the starry night and talk outside. But yeah, we have the ability to shut the doors.
Anything else? All right. We'll open it up to public comment. Please come up and
Should we
state
leave
your
one
name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
So, come up to this
Is
one
the
here.
mic on there?
if you can turn that on, thank
Good
you.
job.
If you will, please address all of your concerns to the panel and not to the applicants, please.
Okay, my name's Nathan McIntyre. I'm at 7294 Road 41, the property to the north and to the west of the subject property. So we have numerous concerns about the proposed project and rezoning. So far more than I'd be able to cover in 3 minutes, which is why my wife and I put together the letter to you all. Really appreciate the time to stand up here and voice my concerns and formally object. I think our property is impacted in a number of ways, potentially. And I guess I'm a little confused since the permit specifically called out music festivals and concerts. So that was a big concern to us. If it was just to be a wedding venue, then I would think that would be all that would be needed in the permit application. So I want to spend just a minute talking about the topography of the subject property and how it impacts the properties around us, around it, including ours. So give you guys a little visual aid here with the subject property. We share kind of a natural amphitheater with the subject property. We're on the north rim, and the subject property is on the south rim. It opens up to the west, and there's basically a line of sight, direct line of sight from our house to the subject property they're building, and basically the whole property because it sits on the side of a hill. Noise carries across the hollow to our place and to our neighbors. And even further down the hollow towards Road G, you know, we hear basically everything going on down that hollow above us and below us. So that's one of our concerns. The size of the property is it meets the 3-acre threshold, but part of the property is cut off by the Weber ditch and the easement. And it's also a really fairly steep piece of property. It's about a 12% grade from the ditch down to the corner of our fence line. So there isn't a lot of as much usable space as would appear on a map. So noise is a concern, light's a concern, the condition of the fencing is a concern, contamination of our pasture below the property is a concern, especially if there's large events and lots of debris. The windy location. But with the time that I have here left, I just wanted to speak to one specific concern, and that's the wildfire danger. So the subject property is forested, and it connects to several properties around it that are also forested, including ours.
Nathan, your time is
Okay.
up.
All right,
3
thanks a lot,
minutes.
appreciate it.
Mr. Hawkins.
Commissioners, thanks for having us. My name is Bo Hawkins. I live at 38850 Road G, which is west of that piece of property. The points I wanted to bring up had to do with a sewage issue and the Weber Ditch. I sit on the Mancos Water Conservancy District. One of the things that I worry about is if you have a venue of any size or magnitude, there's going to be a lot of sewage that's going to be generated. I have seen a YouTube video that the property owners had put into place that has to do with building composting toilets. I believe they have one. It didn't look like it was composting to where I had a hand crank or anything like that, but I do have some concerns about that particular thing. If it is in fact an outhouse and not a composting toilet, Title 25 makes it to where you can only use that for 7 days. The other issue I had was the Weber Ditch. The Weber Ditch has a prescriptive easement on it, which they're talking about putting that into pipe with the desalinization program with the Bureau of Reclamation. If that starts to happen, they're not going to be able to use their property because they're going to have contractors in there putting a pipeline in. And they've looked at putting that ditch into pipes for several years, and it can probably happen within the next few, because you guys are all sure, you've all been aware of all the other ditches that are going into pipe with the desalinization. And I will just remind you of Hughes versus Montezuma County, also with Jay Stringer's piece of property. Remember that cost the county quite a bit of money when that went into effect. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm Nancy Herndon. I live at 40718 Road G, Mancos. Tom Weaver called me today, and he said he had emailed you a letter. Oh, Tom Weaver called me, and he's on his way to Arizona. And he said he is opposed to this permit, and he sent me an email with a letter. He wanted to make sure you got the email, but if not, for me to read his letter, I'll have to read it fast. Would you like me to do that? Okay.
Sure.
From Tom Weaver to the Planning Commission. Subject HIP-06222, 11/10/2022. Please accept this letter in opposition to the above cited high impact permit and zoning change request submitted by Silvina Guerreiro for the property located at 7134 County Road 41, Mancos, Colorado. This application indicates that this plan will be a venue of weddings, music festivals, and local community events. The zoning application in the narrative states that this is intended to bring tourists to the town of Mancos. Traffic is expected to exceed 15 round trips per business day. How much more traffic can the Weber Road handle? This parcel is zoned AR3-9. At the present time, it was represented to the Valley and Weber Canyon people that this is what would happen, and this is what did happen with the building of what appears to be a single-family dwelling. Making a bed and breakfast out of it would be not unreasonable. You can even have a wedding in the backyard if you choose. But when this becomes a commercial venture with music festivals advertising for a wedding venue and other local community events, this stretches AR 3-9 to an intolerable limit. This high-impact permit and zoning change request should be turned down, as there are many more options within the town of Mancos to host these type of events. This request even says it is intended to bring tourism to Mancos, so let's leave it in Mancos. People can always drive around the valley to enjoy the scenery without those of us living here having to put up with a commercial venue at this location. Submitted by Tom Weaver, 8950 County Road 41. And I agree with everything he's saying, and one of the things that concerned me was once someone's given a commercial permit, then it's a precedent, it seems like, that would open it to other commercial things. And it's agricultural.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Katie McClure. I live south of the property in question at 6554 Road 41. We moved here just 3 years ago, right as the pandemic began. And even with the pandemic, we've become involved in the community. My husband volunteers with the fire department and teaches at the school. I volunteer at this school and am involved with the nonprofit community addressing suicide prevention. When we considered building a structure on our property, we invited our impacted neighbor down to discuss it. We already knew him and had even shared kid care to help each other out. We talked about locations and noise and asked if there was anything we hadn't considered. We do currently also have a short-term rental. We have it so we can pay the bills. And we're hopeful that this won't always be a need and we can switch it into a long-term rental because we know that's what's needed in the community. We also know our neighbors because we walk and we run into them around town. We're friends with the McIntyres through school and kids. We know Mike and Mindy because of their farm. We know Cindy because of her involvement in the orchard. I know Jessica Randall, who's on the letter, through work. We know Doug, Dustin, Laura, Scott, Margaret through walking and making an effort to say hi. We know the neighbors with the peacock house because, well, peacocks. I could go on. But the point is, our decisions take into consideration our neighbors and our community. Most of us in Mancos and Montezuma County do stuff in this way. Those who own the property in question, I'm sure, are nice people, and I look forward to getting to know them. But to the knowledge of those of us here today, have not made such an effort as yet. As for safety, Road 41 is steep in places, has sharp and dangerous curves, blind hills, and lacks any shoulders for parking. It's used heavily by ranchers feeding and moving livestock, by tractors and ag equipment to transport produce, and the ever-amusing and fairly regular escapee peacock, guinea fowl, turkeys, cows, or pigs. It has increasingly heavy ATV and quad traffic. It sees a lot of recreational use from walkers, joggers, and cyclists. And it's also on the Mancos school bus route with numerous bus stops between the property and the town. Residents are familiar with the road and accommodate the current set of uses. Large groups of non-residents would not be familiar with the road, maybe drinking during events, and we feel there's a large risk of conflict or accidents on the road. The proposed parking plan doesn't seem anywhere near sufficient for large events like the stated musical festivals or concerts, and with no street parking available, ensuring critical access for law enforcement, firefighters, or other emergency services seems impossible. So I'm concerned about trust, I'm concerned about safety. My kids want to be able to safely walk or ride their bikes to town, to school, and to see friends. And I'm actually also concerned about what might happen if this particular business model doesn't work out and it's rezoned for some other commercial business. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. Mike Nolan, 41095 Road G, just a couple thousand feet to the west. I'm just generally opposed to both the commercial rezoning and the general high-impact or special use permit that would allow events to happen on a regular basis, spring, summer, and fall. And in my view, and I'm not a lawyer, but looking this up, this seems to fall under spot zoning to a certain degree. And looking up some Colorado law and some other articles, spot zoning is generally prohibited or frowned upon in the state on the theory that local government cannot act merely to the benefit of a single landowner, but must act in the benefit of the general public. That's kind of my main issue with this whole thing is the spot zoning issue, but also I just want to reiterate the noise. When I called Scotty Cox and a few other people about this, they were told when they were growing up that this thing was called Ghost Holler. I'm about 2,000 feet down. When Chris and Polly when Chris is having a quiet conversation with his wife, I can hear it. When Nate and Jess are going out hollering at the kids, I can hear it. And whether we like it or not, we all know too much about each other because of that. But the noise tends to travel really far down G, almost to the Copenhagen property, about 3,500 feet away. In general, I don't mind a one-off deal, a one-off wedding. I don't mind it when Scotty's running his tractor at 2 in the morning right on my fence line. I don't mind it when a neighbor has a party, stays up too late, makes a little bit of noise once a year, something like that. But this kind of general blanket high-impact use and commercial zoning is what really has me worried for that kind of area and where we live. Another thing to also bring up, too, I know Bo brought up the Jay Stringer issue from years back, but I had a buddy, Tyler Hoyt, apply for a similar thing about 4 years ago. And to quote then Commissioner Rob Pope, he said, "I can't submit a blanket high-impact permit for multiple events. Our system is designed to consider one event at a time." And his permit was denied on a 4-0 vote. And just kind of in general for me, like I just want to reiterate some of the concerns about that road. I ride my four-wheeler down there all the time because I'm vice president of the Weber Ditch Company, checking my head gates and that kind of stuff. And even to this day, living there for about 10 years. I mean, it's a dangerous road. There's the whole deer corridors right there on that property. There's tons of animals and critters all over the place. People get in, hit deer on a regular basis, and the idea of potentially even 4 or 5 events in a summer where people will be drinking, and even if there's a hard stop at 10 o'clock, they're still going to be talking, and they're going to be driving home. I worry about the safety concerns for the wildlife, for the community, for that turn down by the cemetery, coming down into Tom Weaver's and that kind of area. So that's kind of what I said. I sit opposed to this and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Howdy. I hadn't planned on talking, but I can't resist an open mic. My name is Kelly Pettigin. I live on 7601 Road 41. So I'm just about, I don't know, maybe a third of a mile north of this property. And my big concern is the safety of the roads. I'm currently teaching my 4-year-old how to bike on that road. There's no shoulders whatsoever. There is people who speed way too fast. It's usually not the locals that I know. It's not, the rancher trucks going by. It's, I don't know, it's fast cars. It's so bad that right now there's a speed, sign that blinks just to give a warning. And I've seen people almost try to outdo it and go up to 55, 60, even though it's a 35-mile stretch. Our house, you go up a hill and then there's a flat stretch of road. And that's where I'm most concerned, and that's where all the traffic will be going back and forth. My neighbors, Laura and Jay Johnson, 7591 Road 41, also have some of the same concerns. Traffic is our main issue, as this is a Skeeting County road with lots of wildlife, bikers, joggers, and kids. We are a quiet residential and ranching area, not suited for large commercial gatherings, is what their note says. I'm also a small-scale farmer and moved here for the agricultural beauty of this land and the heritage that we have as a farming community, and I just don't want to see that lost by commercial zoning. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Foster. I live at 41263 Road G in Mancos. And, I've lived in my little hovel on Road G for about 25 years. I was in the county when the county did their Liz comp plan, and it was a painful thing, and came up with the land use code. And while it's not perfect, it works for us. It works for our county. But, you know, we went through that whole process and, you know, came up with objectives to try to make our county in a place where all the neighbors can get along. Basically to create predictability was my understanding of the comp plan. You know, and the code lays out a bunch of objectives in looking at zoning across the county. And, you know, I could read those, but you guys, I'm sure you guys have read those, I'm sure. I just don't see how this is consistent with that process that the county's been walking down for the last 25 years. We're basically going to stab a commercial hotel event property at the head of Weber Canyon, surrounded by people that own ag residential properties. It just doesn't make sense to me. It is the commercial rezoning that bothers me. And honestly, I'm confused by a couple of the statements that were made here tonight. I don't know how you do a forced rezoning once this is already zoned commercial. I've never seen it in this county. Like if this gets a commercial zoning and these folks sell this property as a commercial zoning, how does the county come back in and force rezone that property? I'd like an explanation to that because I've not seen it in this county. So if it's possible to do, I'd be interested in how to do it, but without the landowner's initiation to force rezone their property after these people move on, we all move on eventually, one way or the other. I don't know how that's going to happen. The other thing I'm a little confused about that I would like some explanation about, because, you know, I was involved in the Stringer thing. He's my neighbor right across the street, and as much as I like Jay, I didn't think it was the right place for that particular thing to happen. You know, so I've spent a lot of time reading the land use code, and the special permit process seems, as it reads in the code, completely contradictory than how I heard it tonight. And I'll read it to you. It says to allow sufficient flexibility for special uses, blah, 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 that have potentially greater impact than uses by right and are unusual circumstances such that said use can be accommodated without possible detrimental effects that a change to commercial or industrial zoning can have. What, isn't that the purpose of the special use permit? Is to accommodate things that are a little unique that wouldn't require a zoning change. So I don't even understand this part of the code any longer.
We appreciate your comments. That was your 3-minute mark. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate y'all. I've served on boards before. It's a thankless job, so.
I have some statements from additional neighbors. Am I limited to 3 minutes if I read statements that I'm bringing in?
No, you're limited to your 3 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes? Okay, well, I'm going to try to read fast. So I'm Jessica McIntyre. I live adjacent to the property. I have comments from, I'm going to start with, well, I agree with the objections so far. I don't like the idea of becoming commercial next to us. I have a comment from Harold Welty. He's an owner at 410 on Road G in Mancos. He says the proposed changes to the property at 7134 Road 41 in Mancos are a bad idea. Weber Canyon is a quiet res ag area, a party house that is open until 10 p.m. with live music, attended by occupants of 15 vehicles, 60 people, question mark, does not fit the neighborhood. Road 41 is a narrow, winding, hilly country lane and not suited for carloads of partiers. Also, that part of Weber Canyon serves as a nursery for the local deer population and would suffer from drivers unfamiliar with the conditions. Thank you, from Harold Welty. I also have a comment from Jessica Randall at 41543 Road H25. She said she's a stone's throw from Road 41. I am in opposition to the granting both the proposed permits for 3 main reasons. My partner and I purchased our first home last year to start a family in this location for specific reasons, including both the quiet and dark. I appreciate the peace that living outside of town provides us. I admire our star and dark sky at night when I walk our dogs before bed. The venue feels like a threat to the quiet and dark. Third, as a new mom of an 8-month-old, it's one of our favorite activities to walk into town. Navigating a stroller on Road 41 requires great attention. There are many blind curves in places with no shoulders. Increased traffic, especially consisting of folks unfamiliar with the road, feels like a safety threat to us and many other recreators who walk and bike on Road 41. When you don't live somewhere, you often do not show the same kind of respect to roads and people as you do when they're your neighbors. For all these reasons, I'm opposed to the permits. And if I have time to read another?
45 seconds.
45 seconds, okay. So this is from Clara Martinez at 7340 Road 41. Dear Mr. Haley and members of Montezuma County Planning and Zoning, I regret that I am unable to attend this meeting in person due to COVID illness and quarantine. I am writing to offer opinion regarding the proposed high-impact use permit at 7134 Road 41. My property is close to the place located 2 driveways north between the McIntyre property and Gerald and Carla Copenhafer's property. My driveway is at the top of the hill on 41, and I am in the habit of turning on my blinkers as I pass the Copenhafer mailbox to signal that I am slowing way down to turn east in my driveway. The reason I have to do that is because there is a blind spot on that hill and cars suddenly appear flying up over the hill to oncoming traffic from below.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Scott Midgley. I'm here with my wife, Christine Swank. We own and reside at the property 8370 Road 41. I would just like to express our support for all of the comments so far. We're in complete agreement with particularly the traffic issues and the zoning issues. To your point, Mr. Hernandez, and to the point of the gentleman who spoke one time before, rezoning this property to us is just, I don't want to engage in hyperbole, but I think it's absurd. It really does present a problem for our neighborhood. And if there was some other opportunity for someone to apply for a special use permit for a particular event, we wouldn't be opposed to that. But to have this permanently set in stone, this rezoning of the 3.71 acres is completely beyond the pale. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Cindy Gray, and I'm at 6931 County Road 41. It's one of the oldest homesteads down there, and I've been there since 1976. I'm the first non-decker to own the place. I'm very, very opposed to this, and I could go on, but what I'd really like to do, if you'll bear with me, is I will finish Dr. Martinez's letter that Jessica started to read to you, because she has this real serious problem. Because it is a very blind road, and I agree with absolutely everything that everybody has said here, so let that be. What Clara Martinez says is, when my children were little and took this bus to school, I used to wait with them at the bottom of my driveway, because that is a dangerous spot, which it is, which would be made much more so by greatly increased and unregulated traffic on that section of Road 41, which the high-impact special use would permit, let alone commercial zoning. Another significant concern about the high-impact permit and the eventual onslaught of partygoers on our section of Road 41 is the greatly increased probability of drinking and driving on the road. For-profit businesses must necessarily make money, and in our country, success means you expand and increase your business as you can. The proposed business is not appropriate in our family neighborhood, and it is very telling that just the permitting process has caused conflict and contention among a majority of our neighbors, given the gross lack of communication regarding this proposed permit and the minimum adherence to the required public notice. Mancos doesn't need this project to bring tourism to the town, as the permit states, because the permit wouldn't even be operating in the town of Mancos. This doublespeak and trying to slip something over at the last minute behavior indicates that there is bad faith toward the people in the neighborhood. Lastly, in order to conserve time at this hearing, I am concerned about the exponential increase in unnatural noise pollution in our rural neighborhood, which this permit would allow. I can hear live music from the Guerreiro place at my property now, and they're on the other side of the McIntyres. While an occasional party or event like a family wedding or celebration is most welcome in the neighborhood, a commercial business for profit which maximizes usage would create a burden of loud live music and human crowd sound, and simply put, would wreck the rural beauty of the neighborhood which the permit purports to advocate. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give testimony at this hearing. On behalf of Clara Martinez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, we'll close the public comment, and we'll bring it back to the commission.
I have concerns here. My first being the commercial rezoning permanently does concern me. I think it creates precedent for others to do the same around you. That's a can of worms that I don't know needs to be opened. While I understand the venue, the wedding venue, things like that, one-off situations are one thing. Again, I go back to doing this consistently over and over and over. People are unpredictable, hard to control. I'm genuinely concerned about what can happen on that road. The noise, those types of things get moved out of the building. You go past 10 o'clock. Some of those things are large concerns. It also, to me, if you're going to do something like this, you make a strong effort to reach out to the surrounding neighbors, to see what their thoughts are, right? That sending out your number is one thing, making a concerted effort to reach out to people and explain what you're trying to do is another. I don't think you have a way to regulate 60 people, or I think it would be incredibly tough to regulate 60 people on what their actions are, especially if there's alcohol, things like that. For me, it just doesn't fit in this area.
Zach, I'm in complete agreement with you on that. It does not fit the rural ideologies as this zoning and planning and zoning was set up to do, was to take into consideration on that. With very much the same, it's a great idea. You know, it's a quaint little setup, but it's not set up for that particular rural area. With that being said, and the other statements are being made, I would like to put a motion on the floor, as I did last month, to decline this application based on those ideologies and not fitting our rural community.
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded. Discussion on this motion.
I object because of all those others, but I'm concerned about extending county services into the county, like sheriff and, police and fire, when we're already short-staffed in most of those areas. And why can't commercial go where commercial normally is? So I'm objecting to that.
Okay.
That's all I had.
All right, it's moved and seconded. No more discussion. We will call the vote.
Commissioner Rosso,
Aye.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce,
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders,
Nay.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
All right, the motion carried. The vote was 5-1. Hey, well, good luck to you folks. I guess you can still, you bet.
Thank everybody for coming out. I'm feeling a little bit guilty because I feel like we should have done a better job talking to everybody first. And on the way over here, I was like, I didn't think anybody's going to show up. I was like, oh no, nobody's going to care. It's because in my mind I had it as like not like a crazy raging thing, like a rock concert venue. But every one of your concerns was definitely reasonable, and I just want to appreciate everybody and apologize for having you come all this way on a cold night. And yeah, maybe we should have done a better job on that. And that's it. Thank you. Did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth going through the list of all your concerns, which are all very valid. I have to say that at a certain point, it feels like a popularity contest because we did not reach out. But this is not like our house is right next door. Like it's hard to like walk all the way down, sometimes miles, to hit everybody. And one time we tried to stop by Jessica and Nate's place and they weren't home. So it's like, we're of the generation that, yes, we do leave our numbers. Like we expect people to call us like if they want to talk, and not force them by showing up unannounced. But I do apologize for not involving the community. We definitely do not want the safety of the road to be impacted, and would love to have a conversation about having shuttles. Like we've also had fire people come out and mitigated that situation. We are open to addressing all of those concerns. And then if sound becomes an issue at our property line, then by all means, we need to be shut down. Like we are not trying to be your worst enemy here. We are also trying to pay the bills. And I am sorry for the past couple months. I have been freelancing, and I work all the time, and I don't have time to walk miles down the street. Thank you.
They can still petition to go see the commissioners and do they
You
know
can
that?
still petition to the commissioners. This doesn't mean it's over if you want to bring it forward, so you do have the opportunity to work with your neighbors and bring it back forward if you so choose.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you all for coming.
You can't leave that.
So
Different revenue.
I only got one addition.
Oh, we gotta do roll call. Make this official.
Yep, we do.
Additional discussion, yeah. We got Commissioner Rosso.
Here.
Commissioner Farian.
Here.
Commissioner Pierce. Here. Commissioner Saunders.
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez. Commissioner Taylor.
Yes, here.
Yeah, so our additional discussion item is following up on our discussion on after the fact.
So I got,
Situations.
I got one submittance to, this is for after the fact land use code violations. This is by John, and it's pretty identical to what we've discussed in the past, but multiple living dwellings on a single property, Airbnbs, or any kind of setback infractions, after the fact violations, which cannot be grandfathered in, should be subject to fines for not bringing the violations into compliance. Giving them either a 9 or 12 month grace period for them to come forward mitigate those infractions, and then after which that grace period closes, they are charged the 4 times what the original application fee was. Whatever that cost is, it's 4 times.
And how are we getting in touch with these people to begin with?
Well, we had talked about putting it in several different areas, right?
Right, we'd put out the PSAs, put it on our county Facebook page.
The paper wasn't, the
Newspaper.
paper was on there.
And if you're gonna give them that length of time, 9 months to 12 months, you can put it in with their taxes.
Correct.
And how
Depending
far,
on what's legal with putting in with their taxes.
Well, that's true.
did we decide how far back we're going? Is
I don't think we,
to the inception of the codes?
You can't predate the land use code. I mean, once that was an official, then you can't go past that.
So, and that's
Or
what.
Before that.
Yeah, and that's what was stated here, is that it was, they weren't grandfathered in already.
So that would be grandfathered in before the land
So,
use code.
yeah, previous to land use code, everything post, having that infraction. And it's because what we don't want people to just do it and then come apply afterwards once they get caught, right?
Yeah.
And so this is incentivizing them. You have a year to become compliant. If you don't, and you're caught, then that's 4 times what the normal cost is.
And
If
they
it's
have
a-
to become compliant still.
Right, yeah, and if they don't become compliant, then the,
County attorney gets
the
it.
county attorney sets the lien, right? And so.
correct.
That was, I didn't rewrite it because it was exactly what we had talked about originally. So,
Do we have a date when the land use code was imposed, or is this every
Oh,
specific?
it was adopted in July of '98.
98.
And then
Have the
Liz,
commissioners expressed any ideas on this? Thoughts about,
no,
they're
they,
just looking to us to,
right.
yeah, because we pushed it to them once.
They just,
We-
yeah, they're
Stan-
just tired of after the fact.
Stan, we
variance
pushed it to
requests.
them once.
Came
We
back
talked
to us.
about it, we pushed it to them, and then they sent it back to us.
I did put a list together and did not bring it, so I will send that to you all. I found some options that seemed really good about basically a variance board, because their problem is variances. So a way just to handle that. I'll throw all that in an email for you. I did it right after our meeting last time, and it's just sitting on my computer. Came straight from work, so I do have some thoughts on it too.
Okay,
I just was ill-prepared, I'm sorry.
oh, it's all right.
I
So,
just think managing it all is gonna be really tricky.
well, I think the 9 to 12 months is going to be busy, right? We don't have enforcement, so it's whether or not they get caught post 12 months. But that's where the that's where that leniency timeframe comes in. Yeah, I mean, you can call our bluff, but
Can you
if,
turn in your neighbors?
That's what's gonna happen, is once we
gonna
say the
County-
9 to 12
county red
months,
flag
and the
laws.
neighbors that have kind of been irked about it all along, but really weren't gonna say anything, go, you know what? Maybe I'll mention that.
I can see a lot of that, which might be,
Or they'll wait
Terrible
12 months
for
and then turn them in.
It's
yeah,
kind
they're
of
just,
devious.
there needs to be something to,
and I don't know how you regulate that. I mean, at the end of the day, you're counting on them doing what's best fiscally for themselves,
Right.
but that's not always the decision that's
Well,
made.
And if
well, and
there's,
if they don't have the money to make the correction, are we charging?
well, they're gonna be the normal
The,
fee.
the normal fee.
But
Yeah.
maybe the normal fee is what's holding them up. I mean, there's people that can't even afford to fix a
But-
flat tire.
But the problem
But the
there is
4
they're
times will-
still breaking,
Yeah, but like, people don't make those choices. You still make a bad decision because you can't afford it right now, knowing that the cost is gonna be 40
But we
times
can't
more.
implement the code based on Your bank account.
Well, what are we gonna do?
Right, people will just not do it and stack fines.
What are we gonna do about setback violations?
Well,
But
those-
the setback, I mean, it's still, there's
Those
still a
we're
fee
not
to
gonna
that.
ever be able to fix now, because it goes
No,
back
there'll have
to the
to be
sixties,
variances
seventies, and
issued
sheds and
costs.
barns.
Nobody's gonna
Right.
move their shop out of the way.
But don't they have, there's a cost to a setback variance, right? So, I mean, unless you're really mad at your neighbor and go out there with a tape measure and measure their setback, oh, it's off by 1 inch, you know?
Well,
I
that
could
would
see
be
that
more
happening.
difficult, but I mean, if somebody's got their horse barn
Right.
5 feet off the fence, it's gonna be a pretty huge expense to move it, and
Yeah, but the fee is proportional to the, so we're not increasing the fee, whatever the variance fee is originally.
right. they
So
come
it's
in-
proportional to what the issue is, right?
So we are granting them a variance for the original cost if they come in within 9 to 12 months, and if it's after that, they pay 4 times the original cost, which is still gonna be way cheaper than moving any kind of building.
Exactly, it might be $200 as opposed to
Yeah.
50,
As
but,
opposed to 15,000 or more.
right, to move the building,
Yeah.
exactly.
We talked about briefly, like targeting the B&Bs or the short-term rentals, because you said you were, and the parking spots and whatever, because you said you were getting hundreds of requests and then people just never calling again. Like, do we need to do it by category? Like, are the
We could.
revenue generating things more important than the barns and?
Yeah,
You
but
would think.
that was on a, was that a separate issue? I thought that was a separate issue, maybe.
I think the B&Bs fall under this too.
It came about with all
Did
the
it come about
PUDs
this?
we were doing because they got caught just adding residences to their property.
Correct.
Well, but what I was
Tiny
thinking of,
homes or whatever, yeah.
the Airbnb thing was also the not getting a permit, right? And regulating who was able to get said permit. That was another issue. That was the one I was thinking of, sorry.
That's another
Yeah.
issue. That's actually one that we took to the commissioners in 2019 was a special use permit to have a short-term rental.
And we were talking about limiting it to whether they lived here or, you know,
Correct.
whatever that stuff was, right? So,
I mean, I
I
like the
digress.
idea of targeting things that are out of compliance that generate revenue for the community, rather than going after, I don't care about.
But it's gotta do the shotgun approach, it's gotta hit everybody. And those people are not, should not be exempt, the Airbnbs. Anybody that does anything against the land use code, whether it's a simple, infraction from a setback to Airbnb, throwing up
A lot of
four
those-
residents.
A lot of those vacation rentals are flying under the radar and not paying the lodging tax, which is one of the only taxes we actually get to
That's
collect.
the problem is we have no way to
Probably the only
follow
tax we
and
get to
track them.
collect.
Yeah, and I think,
We tell them they have to register with the state, but that
Wouldn't
doesn't
that be,
mean we
wouldn't that
have.
be a simple Google lookup? I'm looking for vacation home in Montezuma County.
yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
Oh, look, you've got this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one, you know?
well, there's a bunch of them doing it right also.
Yeah.
Right.
But isn't,
I go through and see when the house was there or if they're adding a house to do their Airbnb.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's only so much time you hit it when you can, but that's how we did the whole hip camp thing. One guy up by Summit had 12 lots,
12 lots.
12 campsites on his property.
well, and the other thing is like we saw with Lewis at one time, they had 3 buildings, 3 houses on that property, right?
They've got four
And it
Four
only,
tiny houses.
And it only came up because they wanted a second address, you know?
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
The other Lewis is down
That
on the
was
airport
the
road.
mess where we were trying to figure out if it was listed on everyone's deeds or not. Some it was, some it wasn't.
Right, right. But my point is it can be a small infraction as much as a setback, right? And in reality, it can be all the way up to, I mean, what if they have 5 houses built on a property and without asking, you know? or without applying through the proper channels.
Well, there's
What are they
some-
doing
there's
with
some that
septic?
do, That lady on the Camel Canyon.
Mhm.
And furthermore, if it's for commercial use, like you said, why shouldn't they be in compliance with us? I mean, why shouldn't everybody, but why shouldn't commercial for sure, you know?
No, for sure commercial, because the rest of the county is subsidizing their
Exactly.
commercial.
So I think it's, I don't know, I would make it a focus area prior to a large-scale project. Like, if you can accomplish that, then you could expand it.
So roll it out.
I just think it's,
Do a soft opening.
yes, I think a soft opening makes sense. Because, I mean, you also, like, your capacity is limited. It's just the two of you.
So do we open it initially to commercial land use code violations for 1 year? Hear me out, for 1 year. See how many actually come into, you know, turn themselves in to get into compliance. And then the following year, it's everything else.
I think
I
that
mean-
would be, I think like.
I mean, that's a
like
lot,
like
that's a
Kaylee
lot of
said,
time.
You pick that one particular area and see how it's enforced and commercial land use.
So commercial, or you just state, commercial has a year to get into compliance, everybody else has 2.
Okay.
You know?
That's still like, I think you figure that piece out. I'm just, say everybody does want to comply, then that's everybody on their workload. Like, I think, keep it reasonable, and, I mean, the revenue generating things for the county are more important, I would think. I mean, everything's important, we need, you know.
I agree with you, Andy, but Don will back me up on this. This gentleman that was sitting right here, Commissioner Copenhagen, we need to stop this after the fact, setbacks and variances. That's where this whole thing
Oh,
started.
yeah, it annoys them like crazy,
That's where it started.
but I don't think
With the Airbnbs that.
they're not thinking about what it's gonna look like.
They're gonna get 2,500 people come in the first week.
Yeah, because if you can't manage it and do it right, then people are gonna be like, I don't care.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
if you never send the hate mail saying you have 4 times because the workload's too big, I mean, if it takes you 2 years to get that notice out, then they're gonna say, well, you didn't come and get me in time. So, like, I think there's a capacity issue too.
True.
So I'm sticking up for you and Jane. I don't know if that's the right approach to take, but
I would be surprised if you get that much feedback. We've got contractors that don't even call us.
Well, it's better to ask for
That's how-
forgiveness than
that's-
permission.
That's how these after the fact and variances come about. We've got another one Tuesday.
but maybe a variance board would get it out of their hair. They just don't want to deal with it. Just a variance committee, that's what other communities do.
yeah, but if we do just a variance community, we're still opening ourselves to people doing it and then waiting to see if they get caught, right?
Like, maybe their variance committee goes into effect during this process. So they're the ones stamping everything.
I think you're right, that'll be the problem, is people that figure it out and go, well, why should I ask what to do? They might say, no, why don't I just do it, go in, I've got a year to go in and pay what I would have paid anyway, and now there's no decision.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, you'll have loopholes for 12 months, right? Because
That
they'll.
sounds like Mike's gonna be building stuff.
I put a bunch of stuff next to my fence line.
Hey, 4 times the variance fee's not bad for putting it where you want it.
Hang it over property lines and everything, huh?
That might be a little tough.
Yeah. I don't know, that's what John sent me. It was almost identical to what we had originally talked about.
That was just a step, for everybody to.
Right.
Massage,
So-
beat up, whatever.
And so if you guys want to for the following month, for this going on month, send me all that,
I'll send it in the morning.
and then we can.
Maybe Don, did you send this out to everybody, Don, did you?
No, I think you just.
No,
sent it
I
to me.
just sent it.
Well, maybe we should, so then people can beat it up.
Are we allowed to do that?
I can send it to everybody, just
Beat it up.
reply individually to that.
And only send yours to Don and to me, and then he can send it to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, don't be group emailing back and forth.
I would never.
Yeah, don't reply all. First time I'm gonna tell somebody, don't reply all. I get tired of forwarding emails because county departments can't reply all.
I try not to do that.
Shall I make a motion to adjourn?
I heard that. I'll second it.
Hey,
All
good
in
night.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Even
want to catch
though
it at the water district.
that you did
Well,
tell that woman that she should have
That we
reached
know,
out to her
that's
neighbors,
it.
and she should have.
He's in for,
I felt like
He's in
saying
for a
what she
fight.
said.
What time did I
It's a
tell ya?
Popularity contest, because I didn't reach out to
he
her,
said the
but that
nasty
wasn't
word,
the
prescription.
main criteria.